Hello, and welcome to another episode of What's on the Pile. I'm Nathan Besner, and joining me is Shane Lee,
What's up?
Jane Belcastro,
Howdy.
and Jenner.
Jenner here.
This time we have a chivalric double feature with A Knight's Tale, a fun anachronistic comedy drama starring the Joker, Wash from Firefly, Vision, Mark Addy, and a wooden mannequin they call Shannon Sossaman. In this fun tale, Wash, Vision, and Mark Addy join forces to help the Joker become a real knight so they can make money for food. When the Joker falls in love with a mannequin, Rufus Sewell, the guy from Dark City, takes notice and attempts to use his white privilege to smash up the Joker's dreams. After that, we'll be watching a completely different kind of Knight's Tale with The Green Knight, the A24 release starring Dev Patel as Sir Gawain, the King Arthur's nephew. Based on the chivalric poem Sir Gawain and the Green Knight tells a tale of Sir Gawain and his quest to bring honor to his name by confronting the Green Knight. But first, A Knight's Tale. This was not on my pile. I saw this a long time ago. Even though the trailers initially, I was like, what in God's name is this movie? With all this like modern music and what is it? What could it possibly be? But I found myself, when I originally saw it, I found myself quite amused by it. I really, really enjoyed it. I saw some more problems this time, but I'm sure we'll discuss them. Whose pile was this on?
This was on my pile. I had not seen this. I was aware of it, of course, for basically its entire history. I had just never been particularly interested, but I found myself pleasantly surprised for the most part. I generally quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we're gonna show you A Knight's Tale for the first time. Woo!
I mean,
I was excited.
I'd seen it. My friend, I think some of you know her, Kelly, made me watch it, and I vaguely knew that it was sort of comedic. And then when we watched it, this was years and years ago. When We Will Rock You started, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. And I remembered it being a lot goofier. I mean, it is goofy as fuck, but I remembered it being like Robin Hood Men in Tights, or like that level of like goofy. It wasn't, but we'll talk about it. I enjoyed it, but it was a lot different than I remembered.
Yeah, it was different for me as well. I think the majority of my let's just jump right into it. I think the majority of my issues come down to Shannon Sossaman and her character, which is there as a prize to be won, and
Yeah, yuck.
not much else. Not a lot going on there. And I really don't think Shannon Sossaman was given good lines, because I liked her in Rules of Attraction.
Yeah,
I
I was
thought,
about to say that. Yeah, she was great in that.
yeah. So
I actually liked her in The Order, which was the Heath Ledger Brian Helgeland project that they did after this. Yeah, she was given more interesting stuff to do, although the film itself is a little bit of a mess, but it's pretty interesting. It was one of those ones that got mucked around with by the studio, to the point where it lost its original title. It was originally supposed to be called The Sin Eater, but that was one of those not pre-screened for critics genre movies. I don't know that I would actually call it a horror movie, but something like it, that I made a point of catching in the theater in their original runs. But that film I actually thought she was rather good in, although definitely not as pretty as she was in this one.
yeah, she looked fantastic. The costume design in this movie is really good. It's really well done.
I mean, she wasn't helped by the fact that Kate was such a cooler character. Like,
Yeah.
he should have ended up with Kate. And I didn't realize it was driving me crazy watching that actress. I didn't know who she was. Turns out she played Lydia in Breaking Bad.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
I was like, why do I know that face? Like, I know that face. It's like vaguely familiar, but not quite the same. I mean, that must have been like 15 years before. It's such a different character. But I finally looked it up because it was just driving me nuts. But that's some range there, going from Kate to Lydia.
I love
But
that
yeah,
character too.
she was my favorite character. He should have ended up with her. She
Yeah.
built some armor that everyone laughed at, but they blasted him through, or they put a battering ram to him. He's like, "Oh, I didn't feel a thing." Great.
She's one
Well,
hell of a
ridiculous,
she's one
but
hell of a
it's
good
okay.
farrier.
Yeah. Yeah, you should go with the lady that protects your vital organs. Really, every time.
I mean, I guess
Every time.
they made a vague reference that she had a dead husband or something like that. Other than
Yeah,
that,
that's
I'm
right.
like, other than that, I'm like, why aren't they getting together? Why does he care about this other girl who just looks pretty
That's
and
it.
has
That's
crazy
all.
hair?
That was it.
That was all. That was the depth of the character. She looks pretty. That's what everybody
She
kept
managed
saying.
to get to get her hair crimped in the medieval times. So,
Yes.
hey, that's talent.
Yeah, there were more anachronisms than just the music. In the costume design, there's a lot. In the hairstyling and the makeup, there's a lot.
Mhm.
And I think for the most part, it works.
Mhm.
Did you guys read up on why Brian Helgeland decided to go with modern music?
No,
No.
actually
No.
didn't.
Well, what he wanted was during those jousts in medieval times, people would apparently just rock out to medieval music, and they would do that, like thump on the wood and whatnot to make a lot of noise, and he wanted that feeling to come across to a modern audience, and he didn't think he could do that with Renaissance music, and or not Renaissance, medieval music, and instead decided to go with the modern music so that people would get that same feeling out of it. And I think that idea kind of works for this movie. It does get you into it, into the joust. You're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm into this. I'm gonna enjoy this joust. I love the jousting
Yeah.
scenes too.
The
Me
the
too.
jousting is awesome.
It's
No,
just-
the music is one of those things that's silly, but it's the agreeable kind of silly.
Mhm.
I think it's overall a very agreeable movie. It's a bunch of friends who remain friends. And great jousting scenes. I mean, the story's basic. Ledger, I particularly pointed to as when we were watching it, as he's kind of doing that vacuum at the center of the vortex thing. He's the plot of the movie, but everything surrounding him was the entertainment, as Jane put it the other day. But
Absolutely. I mean, everybody else is so good. It didn't matter.
yeah,
I don't care about this love story.
yeah,
Let's
Like Paul
let's
Bettany's
just
ass.
enjoy ourselves.
yeah. I was about to say,
I know. Yes, I
So
think I
so
was
much mileage
actually
out of
rather
Paul
enamored-
Bettany's ass in
enamored.
this movie.
yeah, the leads are a bit of a void in this movie, but most movies should be so lucky to have this this deep a well of supporting players. And most of them before they were really terribly well known, to the point where Jane here was legitimately surprised when Alan Tudyk showed up.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't that time, but I knew he was in it.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I knew he was in it.
Oh,
No, I wasn't. No, there were a couple other people I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, hey, cool. But yeah, and I've seen it often enough and recently enough that that was
yeah, my mistake. But Tudyk is a joy. Bettany, oh my God, Bettany was the franchise of this picture.
Yeah.
My good or what?
This movie is the first time I became aware of both Alan Tudyk and Paul Bettany.
Same.
Was this
Yeah,
before A Beautiful Mind? I mean, I saw this after A Beautiful Mind, but that was when I first saw Bettany. I don't know when this movie came out. Was it the 90s?
Two-
It was 2001.
Yeah.
That was the same year.
Jinx.
Yeah, no, Bettany had done a couple of things before this, but I believe this was before A Beautiful Mind. I first picked up Bettany, having been dimly aware of him for a little while with Master and Commander, which of course was the other movie that he did with Russell Crowe. But no, he was fantastic. Again, playing a famous historical figure of Charles Darwin in that case. No, but Bettany was absolutely the juice and fire of this picture. Although the team surrounding him, Tudyk's constant. Let's talk about Forn. Let's talk about one of the greatest and most. Like I say, it took me a day to realize. Oh, it's short for fornicate. But
Wait, wasn't he saying Fong?
He was
That's
saying
what-
Fong.
No,
Fong?
It was subtitled as Fong. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember.
I thought
Yeah.
it said.
It's Fong.
Oh, maybe you're right.
It
It
was
was
oh.
Fong.
Because
Well,
Fong
we-
is an actual medieval word.
Yeah, when we first saw
Oh,
this movie,
wow.
we were using the word Fong over and over all weekend after we saw this. We had never heard it before.
Yeah.
Okay, so my brain instantly short-circuited there, but
Well, it came up
even-
with a reason.
yeah.
Yeah, but that makes more sense actually. Fong doesn't mean anything to us, but
Yeah, it's an old,
Born
It's
makes
old
still
word.
it's still one of the funnier curse words that I've ever seen used to keep something PG-13.
Yeah. Let me.
And the way Tudyk uses it for the most part is poetry.
Okay,
I will fong you so hard your entrails will become your extrails.
I'm looking up a definition. It's fong means to kick. It means I'll
Oh.
fong you, I'll
Oh.
kick you.
okay.
So it's not even that interesting.
But it still stands in nicely.
Yeah.
Actually,
it
thank you
works.
for looking that up. That works, and yet
Yeah.
it is, you
That
You kinda
makes
wonder.
that makes it a much less horrifying threat, but still, the way that it plays to an audience, I think the effect is intended.
Yeah, it definitely plays for laughs. We love. Jess actually told me what the definition was originally because she heard it over and over and was just like, I want to know what that means. I need to know. It was very important to her.
Yeah, no, the supporting cast in this is amazing, and a bunch of people who've gone on to bigger and better things. I was first aware of Tudyk with Wonder Boys, which I believe was the same year, and which was released slightly before this was. But he had definitely made an impression on me in that as well.
I
For
seem
the
to
whole
remember.
bit about Errol Flynn putting paprika on his dick,
Yeah,
to make it more intense.
I thought it was
For the lady.
Martha
I believe
Crow?
Wonder Boys was '99 because I saw that in college.
Yeah.
So that would have been a couple years before. But yeah, that was the first time I saw him, where he played
Might have been
Traxler.
Traxler, but might
Yeah.
have been 2000. It was either
Okay.
2000 or 2001. It was not terribly long before this, in any case. But that was the point where I first picked him up and liked him immensely. And then of course later on I see him in half of frickin' everything, and then it's Firefly, and of course he that's probably the thing that he's best remembered for at this point.
I
And Tucker and
Different
Dale.
Resident Alien. My God, it's a good show.
I still haven't seen that.
And
I need to.
It is really fun, and apparently there's this story that's going around the Facebook about Peacemaker. His Alan Tudyk's wife did the choreography for the beginning, that fun opening. Have you
Oh,
seen
wow.
it?
Yeah, I've seen
I've,
the
I've seen
opening.
the opening. Yeah.
And apparently Alan Tudyk stood in for John Cena doing
Oh,
the
nice.
dancing. So, so
Man's-
there's some photographs of that floating around.
Yeah, the man is a treasure.
He also
He
voices
is.
another animal in Encanto.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right. He
Oh,
was the parrot. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And he's great as King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph, where I
Oh,
didn't even know
yeah.
it was him. I was like, who the hell is that? I was like, ooh, Alan Tudyk. Wow.
He's got
Interesting.
And he
range.
plays several people on Harley Quinn. The
He's
animated
in
series.
everything, and this is
We
as
can-
it
and we
should
can
be.
pick him out pretty much every
Yeah.
time. If we're like watching,
No,
a friend of mine said, like what voice do you always recognize or something like that? I'm like Alan Tudyk every time. I'm like, oh, I bet that's him.
Has
but we're lucky every time.
has everybody
His
seen
Joker
Con
is
Man?
only second to Mark Hamill. Con Man? Oh yes.
No, I
Yeah.
didn't see that.
I don't think we
It's
finished
great.
it though. I think we've only seen like the first season.
We only
maybe
saw the
season and
first
a half.
season, I believe. Yeah, but need to see more of that.
Yeah, great show.
Great show.
I'm a fan.
Rigmarole.
What's up, bitch?
Let's talk for a minute about Rufus
Let's-
Sewell.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
wonderful voice, very underappreciated for his deliveries. Usually pretty much a master of underacting.
Mhm.
So makes for a very good, if not terribly profound, heavy in this case. But yeah, definitely not so much white privilege as class privilege in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was still fun to say.
Although the point was absolutely comparable.
Yeah, I mostly know him from Dark City, as you mentioned, Nate. I love that
Yeah.
movie, by the way.
Great
and
freaking
then,
movie.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
he just seems to play a lot of sort of low-key heavies and a lot of stuff since then. I don't know. I know I've seen him around. He was in a TV version of Pillars of the Earth, where he played like a noble builder. But other than that, I haven't seen him around too much, except just as kind of generic bad guys. But I mean, he was great in this.
I loved him in this, and he's actually the reason I saw this movie in the first place. When I found out the guy from Dark City was in it, that's what made me want to see it. I was like, oh God, that guy's awesome. And then I fell in love with the movie when I saw it. So
Yeah, you know,
Yay.
Sewell does not get enough leads, but he's always a very reliable presence. One of my favorite roles that he did was the only thing that I liked particularly about The Tourist, the Johnny Depp Angelina Jolie
Oh.
vehicle, was him as the guy who had been basically hired. I'm not going to go into the spoiler, but basically he was a figure of mystery in The Tourist and ended up being one of the low-key delights of that movie, which is otherwise a completely inconsequential picture, marred not least by Johnny Depp doing an appalling British accent at the end of the film. No, like migraines, no, migraine. Anyway, that's a bit of a pet peeve. But in any event, Sewell is always an agreeable presence.
I'm a big fan of his work. I have heard that The Tourist is just awful. It's just an awful film, and it's made me intrigued because somebody I know whose taste I do not trust loved it, and so it makes me actually kind of want to see it to hate watch it.
I mean, they did that movie on How Did This Get Made, to give you an idea of
I was about to say,
the level of that movie.
If I recall correctly, Bettany was in that one as well, and he was, other than Sewell, probably the best thing in the movie. Paul Bettany is really good at being the best thing in whatever movie he ends up in, whether or not it's a good movie.
No, the first time I saw Bettany was this, but it made me rent the movie Gangster Number One,
which you introduced me to.
Yeah. Which is a tour de force performance from Paul Bettany.
Yeah, no, he just absolutely burned up the screen in that movie, and I realize that's a bit of a cliche, but this was a guy whose fury could melt cities.
Yeah. They even had a sound effect to go over it. It's a great movie, and he just steals that whole thing. And that's a movie that has David Toulis and Malcolm McDowell in it.
Wow.
McDowell as the gangster that Bettany's character grew into.
Right.
But yeah, no, great frickin' movie.
Mm-hmm. How about James Purefoy coming out? I like seeing James Purefoy on occasion playing the Black Prince.
Another very agreeable presence and a very charismatic, relatively small but important role here.
Yeah.
I have to admit, last time that I saw Purefoy over any length of ground was in The Following, that serial killer series with Kevin Bacon, which ended so unbelievably silly.
That whole show was unbelievably silly. It was bad. It was a bad show with good actors in it.
Yeah, as I said, the acting was very good. It's just the show was just, started off ridiculous, and it just got more and more ridiculous, and mostly not in a particularly agreeable way.
Yeah.
But Purefoy was just fine in it.
Yeah, he chewed a little scenery in that one, and he did a fine job doing so. I remember him from Altered Carbon. He was one of the
yes.
He was the guy who gets the case going. He's the one who hires Tack.
Oh, okay. I remember. I did see the first season of that. I remember him. He was the rich guy, right? The rich guy who hires him and has the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I remember of the show.
Yeah.
I barely remember it.
But I'm putting the face together now, though.
Yeah. I like that show a lot. I'm a fan.
Did you like the second season? Just to interrupt the whole.
I'm the only person on the planet who did. I'm the only one.
Yeah.
I liked Poe. I just always liked when Poe was on screen, and I was really happy they brought him back.
Yeah, he was kind of the franchise of that show. Granted, we've only seen the first episode of the second season, and it kind of didn't hit. I've been meaning to get back to it at some point, but yeah. In any case, though, the point is this movie. It's not even a weapons grade collection of that guys. It's a weapons grade collection of character star actors.
And let's not forget Mark Addy, who was great in The Full Monty. I don't know what else I've seen him in.
Robert Baratheon.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't watch Game of Thrones. So
Yeah.
But he's great in this. I remember him as the sort of the portly kind of loser in Full Monty, and he doesn't do a whole lot here, but he's kind of like one of the reliable friends, and just
he was more
He's a nice guy.
He was more interesting in The Order.
He was the voice of reason.
Was a bit, yes.
I mean, did anyone else feel like this was a sports movie?
It is
Like,
absolutely a
It
sports
could have been
movie.
like about NASCAR or something like that.
Oh yeah.
The
The way I
little
felt.
Nike,
Talladega Nights.
the
Yeah.
little Nike swoosh on the
Oh,
armor,
yeah,
I
that's
think, was
right.
the dead giveaway there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
that was funny.
it is absolutely 100% a sports movie.
Yeah, it definitely follows the formula. Very consciously, I might add.
You got your underdog, your training montage.
Yeah, the montages. There was more than one.
Yeah, there was actually.
Yeah,
There
your-
was
your-
the
the
armor
tournament
montage.
Yep.
And the tournament montage. Yeah, it was like chock full of montage.
Well, how'd you guys feel during the tournament where that vendor was like, cat's meat, hot wine? He's holding these sticks of this nasty looking meat. I don't own a cat. I'm
I
the
don't
only non-cat
care.
owner here. In fact, I just saw a cat walk behind Jane a couple minutes ago.
Oh yeah, that's Argent. He just won't stop. He's got things going on back there. Watch the YouTube if you want to see what Argent and his giant paunch looks like.
Yeah, take a shot every time you see him. Yeah. Make
Drinking games that will kill you.
what's on the pile drinking games. I'm sure we could come up with a couple more. Yeah. I think the big problem with this movie for me is the length of it. I feel like the Shannon Sossaman bit could have been entirely done away with. I don't think she was necessary as a character, and they could have just cut all that out, and it could have been an hour and 45 minutes and been in and out and been just fine. It's
Yeah,
a
it was
little
definitely
longer.
long. Mhm.
Yeah.
It was what,
Well, the
2 hours,
dance
15
scene
minutes?
is fun.
That was
And
a
it did,
fun scene.
You know, he had.
David Bowie
Yeah,
playing.
that was good. Yeah.
That worked really well, by the way.
Golden years. Bump, bump. Yeah. See, they were playing all the songs from my youth. So, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And I got a little misty-eyed during the reunion with the dad. Like, that was a
Oh.
really well done
Yeah.
scene.
I
It was so,
love that.
the way they
That
were
was
both
nice.
kind of like pretending for a few minutes, and then you realize that they realize, and then they embrace and stuff, and it was just a really, really wonderful scene.
It's
Yeah.
a sweet movie. It's
Yeah.
overall, it's you know, there's a little bit of gratuitous beating the crap out of your opponent when Ledger is in jail. But aside from that, it's not even. Aside from wood splintering against people and objects, it's not even a particularly violent movie.
Yeah.
It's agreeable. It's nothing too terribly monumental, but it's sweet. It's fun. It's got some amazing gags in it. Again, mostly courtesy of Paul Bettany and company. It's slight but mildly wonderful. I believe there's a director's cut around which was a little bit longer, and I'm actually curious to see that, even if I'll agree that it may have been a little bit longer than it really needed to be. I didn't mind for the most part. I kind of like to, I can see this being a lot of people's sort of comfort movie, just a movie that you go to when you want to feel a little better.
Yeah, it's a sick day
Yes.
movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
This is
It's-
definitely
I mean,
something
that's
you'd
what I
want to
use it
watch.
for. Or
It's a
something
fuzzy,
in the
it's a fuzzy
background while
blanket.
I'm
It's
doing
not
something
trying to
else.
hurt you at all.
You know
Yeah.
everything's gonna turn all right turn out all right in the end, and I
And in the meantime, jokes.
yep. I actually really liked the whole Black Prince sequence when he releases Heath Ledger. They got me with
Yeah.
that one. I know.
Yeah, that did
Oh,
hit.
yeah.
That did hit in the feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was such a great scene. And
Swelled up my desiccated heart just a little bit.
Oh,
Well, you do too, love.
okay.
I think my favorite montage in the entire movie was the one to Lowrider, though.
That was the training montage,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
was
I like
such
that. So-
such a great
Uh,
montage.
Yeah.
Gotta have a montage.
Such good.
I feel like I think my favorite was probably the sequence of tournaments, just because there is something extraordinarily satisfying about that crack of the lance against some dude's breastplate.
Yeah.
It's a movie that's here to give you what you want, and that is lances exploding on people's breastplates.
And what does he cry during the last joust? Doesn't he yell his own name?
Yeah,
He
William.
yells William and just blasts the guy out of his horse. That was hilarious.
California.
Oh, I got that on Blu-ray for Christmas. I got The Wizard on Blu-ray for Christmas. So
Oh yeah, I bet too.
Yay!
With the extra 40 minutes on it.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
watched it yet, but I
Yeah,
really
me
want
neither.
to. Maybe we can revisit that in a future episode. That'd
Sure.
be fun.
Okay.
You know, movies with scenes that were cut and then bring our like you could talk about the Alien 3 work print, stuff like that.
Okay.
See?
See, you've got it. You got it.
If we're talking about the deleted scenes that we've seen, not necessarily the deleted scenes other people have seen, just like reporting back to the team, that kind of thing. That I can go with that. I'm down with that.
All right. I have not always been a big fan of Brian Helgeland. I think he's had some hits and misses, with more hits than misses, I think. I'm trying to recall everything he's ever made, but he wrote LA Confidential, right?
Yeah. Yes, he did.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, he also wrote, he directed Payback, which I like a lot in both of its cuts.
I have the director's cut on. You know what? I have it on HD DVD, so I don't think I can use it anymore. But I had the director's cut.
I'll take it off your hands next time I see you. I still have all the HD DVDs.
Sure.
And working players.
I chose the wrong horse on that one.
Well, I could have told you that, brother. Anyway, no, but it's interesting because the theatrical version of Payback is actually quite a bit longer than the director's cut. It was a film that was radically retooled, but not necessarily in a way that redounded to its disadvantage. But it's interesting to have both of them. Just don't assume the director's cut is definitive.
Was there a sequel to Payback, or is that the director's cut?
No, there was no sequel to Payback, unless, okay, technically, the film Parker with Jason Statham is technically a sequel to Payback because they both are based on the Parker novels by Donald E. Westlake. It's just until Westlake died, he never actually allowed the name of the character Parker to be used in any of the nominal film adaptations. Payback itself is basically a remake of Point Blank, or more precisely, a readaptation of the same source material.
Because there's a listing on IMDb for Payback straight up, and I was wondering
that's the director's cut.
Okay. Yeah. It gets its own separate. It must be very different.
Yeah. Like I said, the last half hour of the director's cut is completely different from the last 45 minutes of the theatrical version.
Oh wow.
No, interesting.
Yeah.
That might be fun.
I mean, to the point of some major recasting as much as anything else. The character in the director's cut that is voiced, we never actually see her, but voiced by Sally Kellerman, is played by Chris Christopherson in person in the theatrical version.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, it's a radical re-edit. But I actually like both of those. Helgeland, as I say, is an interesting director. Granted, he's never really had a smash as a director. Again, he seemed to get into a pattern after A Knight's Tale of his stuff getting seriously messed with by the studios, because that was what happened to The Order. It ended up getting retooled for something like 2 years after principal photography was filmed, and when it finally came out, it had a radically misleading marketing campaign to make it look more like a Da Vinci Code thing as opposed to a low-key supernatural thriller, and also, of course, had a completely different title. It was originally The Sin Eater. But it's actually still an interesting movie, not least because Ledger is actually really good in it. Sossamon is good in it. You know, Addie is good in it, and it has Peter Weller in an interesting role. It's an interesting movie. You're more likely to find it at a Big Lots than at anything resembling a brick and mortar store at this point, of course. But it's worth a look in its own right.
All right. Well, does anybody have any final thoughts on A Knight's Tale?
It's slight enough that we keep talking around it, but we're all fond of it.
Yes.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Quite like it. And if you like any one of those actors, just watch it. It's so much fun.
It's a happy time. It is. Both of the leads are underwritten, but everything going on around them is just glorious.
And you can see Vision's butt.
You
A
do.
lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think you see
dear.
his butt before you see his face.
Yes,
For
yeah,
quite,
you're
for
right.
quite a
You
while,
do.
in
Yeah.
fact.
Yes.
And you know what? If they play this movie for high school kids, they'll be much more interested in the Canterbury Tales. I would have been.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do like the low-key nod to the Chaucerian phrasing in the title as well.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and take our break? We will be right back. And we're back. Next up, we'll be discussing The Green Knight, starring Dev Patel as Sir Gawain. When the Green Knight surprises King Arthur and his knights with an invitation to play a game, Sir Gawain takes up the challenge, only to fail miserably. A year later, Gawain goes on a quest to confront the Green Knight and bring honor to his name. This was on my pile, and I've been looking forward to it for quite some time. Anybody else had it on their pile?
No, we
No,
saw it.
I saw it in theaters.
Okay. Just
we
me.
saw it, and
We saw
we
it
saw it
with-
with Bob, who
Yeah,
said Tarsem Singh called and said you needed to dial it back a notch. Yeah, Bob. I'm telling you, Bob is the ultimate critic. He
Yeah.
really is.
I think the very first thing I noticed about this film was that it had an interesting editing style that allowed them to fix mistakes as they go. They would do this thing where they would cut between shots and have a short dissolve between them. So say a shot didn't work on the second half or in the first half, you could just cut it right in the middle and attach it to the one you do want to use, and then just put a dissolve in there. And they did that.
Huh.
And they
Oh,
did it
I didn't
throughout
pick
the
up
film.
on that.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool how they would do it. I don't see a lot of dissolves as transitions within the time. Like a dissolve to me usually means passage of time or scene change, but dissolves are used in this movie in the same scene within the same scene, and it's not something I'm used to seeing, but I really liked it.
It's you know,
David Lowery is a pretty ingenious filmmaker. I haven't seen his version of Pete's Dragon, although I am now very curious about it. I haven't seen The Old Man and the Gun, but we did see A Ghost Story, which was definitely another slow burn, but pretty amazing in its own right.
So good. So good. I've even seen it twice. Ugh.
you know
The
that,
pie eating scene, my God. Anyway,
you know that editing style, Nate, that you mentioned. I've done that on AMVs when I was using subtitled source, and I had to cut out dialogue. I would just do a really short dissolve to after they stopped talking, after the subtitle disappeared.
Oh,
that
that's
was
great.
that was not artistic. That was just I only have a sub. I don't have a dub. But I didn't pick up on that technique in this movie. That's pretty cool though.
yeah, it's really
Yeah, it's
interesting.
it is a very slow movie with very lively editing.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is interesting in its own right.
Very lively music that was pretty much, I think, designed to set your teeth on edge at all times. Just the
Yes.
constant like rhythmic tapping or sounds, it just all the time, no matter what was happening on screen. I'm just like, what is happening right now? What's about to happen?
Yeah, this may be the most A24 movie that is not a horror movie.
see, that's what I was thinking. I was like, it was just A24. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I
it just seems
I
like
thought this was
you
going to be
have
a horror
to have
movie.
that.
It feels for a lot of its running time like a horror movie, and there is definitely some horrific stuff in it.
Very
No,
good.
go on.
No, I mean, fundamentally, it's an old school fantasy,
And yet very
old
tense.
school, and
Very
just-
tense.
No, there's definitely tense. Go on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, no, it
I
just
might have too.
it just
Oh.
feels like Daniel Hart. Daniel Hart did the music, but yeah, no, it is a movie designed to make you deeply unsettled, which is why it was a very agreeable rewatch. Because the first, it's like I was saying to Jane last night. It's kind of like why I didn't like Shutter Island the first time that I saw it. The suspense of not knowing what is happening or what is going to happen is distracting from literally everything else in the movie. Once you know what's going to happen, you can settle down a little bit and enjoy just what's going on. Just having the advantage of knowing how it's going to go.
Yeah, exactly. I think the scene that actually proves that so well is the one where he dies. He dies tied up in the woods after the thieves have gotten to him, and this camera spins around, and then boom, you see bones. And I'm like, the first time I saw it, I was like, "Well, that fucking sucks. He just barely started." And then I remembered this time that they had gone back around and started over, where
Which is actually a trick that Lowry did in a Ghost Story as well as a suggestion of low-key time travel or retconning.
Like, this is what could have happened.
Yes,
but it didn't. So but see, when I saw it, I was like, "Damn! Now come on! It just started." And
When
then
I saw that shot, I was reminded instantly of Evil Dead 2 because of the slow 360.
Yep. That definitely rang a bell there as well.
they do that in Daredevil. I was just rewatching Daredevil season 1 with the Asian guy in the cab, the blind one, and they spin the camera around and see see Matt Murdock, and then spin it back around, and he's gone, and and then they spin it back around, and he's throwing people.
Well,
Anyway, it's great.
I think one of the keynotes of the movie, as much as anything else, is, and this is an experience for the audience as well, is the main character is acutely aware that there is stuff going on that he doesn't know about, pretty much at all times. There are things happening that he doesn't understand, and that kind of sense of almost cosmic disorientation, I think, kind of carries over to the audience experience on this one as well.
I kind of got the feeling that between the interesting editing style and the dialogue, writing the dialogue, it really gave it a real medieval feel. In that, if we were to go back in time to medieval times and actually be there, it would be completely foreign to everybody. It wouldn't. We wouldn't be able to understand what they were saying, what was going on, what they were doing, and I feel like that I don't know, disenfranchisement is on display here through the filmmaking.
And in my head canon, that actually carries over to the third act appearance of the couple played by Joel Edgerton and Alicia Vikander, the latter of whom does a chiaroscuro portrait of Gawain, which of course was something that was not invented for centuries later. In my head canon, they are a pair of legend time travelers.
Her dress was really way too revealing for that period. So, they said they were going to be gone, but they said to the north or something.
Well, isn't the Lord the Green Knight? Aren't they the same person?
In the story that he
You
was.
thought?
In the original.
What was not in this movie?
Not in this movie,
or at least I
definitely
certainly
not.
did not get that implication.
I haven't read it.
The original story, this was basically his mom, well, Morgan Le Fay, who was not his mom in the story, basically trying to fuck with Guinevere, who is not even really a character in here. She's there by the king's side, and then that lord is the Green Knight, and it's all just kind of a setup. It's almost like a prank in the story.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it definitely is not. It's a much darker telling of the story. I haven't read the source material. I've just read about what was actually in it and sort of the differences. The source material glosses over, mentions he has many adventures on the way to the Green Knight. Doesn't say what they are. So I'm assuming a lot of this is created by David Lowery.
Well, I expect so.
Well, it's kind of like the Winifred character is not in the original story, but it is a separate story, a story that was a medieval story about Winifred, who's I think it was her lover became upset with her and cut off her head, and then she went around looking for it. They changed it a little bit for the movie, but it's still effective.
It had the feel of like the Odyssey to me, where he's making this journey and just encountering all these sort of random encounters and
well, I mean, as
Giants, ghosts.
As even the structure of the film itself suggests, it's a series of episodes. And I do love some of the chapter titles in this as well.
Oh, the typography in general, just the design of this film is impeccable.
It is. It's just the imagery is fantastic. The CGI Fox is top notch.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's great
he-
Love
CGI.
him.
He
And,
threw
and
a
a pretty
rock at her.
amazing character as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Well, Jane, what did you think of the fact that he threw a rock at that fox initially?
You know what? I knew that was a CGI fox.
Oh, okay.
I did, because that was the problem I had with what was that movie we saw last week?
Wages of Fear.
Wages of Fear. That was an actual dog.
Yeah.
Who was
That's
probably
why-
who was already mangy and consequently already probably having a really bad time of things.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
had a rough time, and they just made it worse.
Oh.
They should have been giving him kibble,
Yeah.
and
Even so, retaining our tendency to have low key carries over of hidden stuff from one episode to the next. But
Well, I
yeah,
like
that was
that.
obviously a CGI fox, even though it was
Yeah.
beautifully done. Okay, sorry.
I
Sorry,
liked
Nate.
that the individual sequences kind of related to the chivalric code of the knights, in that each time he would go through something, he was basically failing at knighthood.
Yeah.
He
The chastity one.
the chastity
right out
one,
the
yeah.
door.
Yep.
I mean, he was kind of a dick all throughout. He he basically has one moment of courage at the very end, but I don't think we were supposed to like him. I mean, as charismatic as Dev Patel is, I was constantly sort of rooting against him. I'm like,
well, I think a lot of the movie's approach to Gawain's development as a character is kind of summed up by Saint Winifred herself. It's like, why would you ask me that?
yeah, he's like, what do you give me in return for finding your head? Like,
Why would you ever ask me that?
Don't touch me. A knight should know better.
I also really just like the fact that they never addressed the fact that Dev Patel is Indian, or just dark skinned for that era. I don't.
Well, no,
I'm pretty sure that would have been.
well, I mean, the whole cast it appears to have been cast pretty much completely colorblind.
Yeah, which I thought was
Yeah.
a really nice.
Which
touch.
actually works really well, I think.
But I also feel like you would have had some travelers and different mixes of people and stuff even back then. I mean, you've got the Moors and all whatnot. I mean, and the Crusades would tend to have people look different because they travel between. So I don't know.
All I know
I
is
didn't think
that
it was that
Dev Patel is hot.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my
Smoke show.
word.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Fanning myself. Yeah.
I mean, he looked like a dork in Slumdog Millionaire, but then I saw him in Lion when he grew his beard out and the hair, and then in this, it's like, wow. It's,
Yep.
no, it's one of those things that I keep coming back to as something I always find interesting. But this movie is an amazing collection of faces and voices. Casting Sean Harris as an old, deteriorating King Arthur with that raspy voice.
And
thing
the tooth that pained him, that was like cracking as he was.
and
pulling
Sean
out.
Harris always has those
fuck.
vacant eyes that he just always kind of seems out of it in whatever he's in. I mean, he's always good,
Yeah.
but he always has that kind of look where
Also,
he's like,
also
not
low
quite
key.
there.
Also, low key reuniting him and Kate Dickie from Prometheus, but and of course she had a complete as Guinevere, she had a completely, hollow, sunken quality to her face as well.
Yeah, they really blacked in her eyes with a.
Yeah.
You
A
know.
lot of people in this movie looked, worse for wear.
What about Barry Keoghan as the thief guy?
Oh,
The-
yeah.
That
Yeah.
guy's. Have you guys?
I've
I
never
guess
seen. I don't know him at all.
he's in Eternals, which I know you didn't like. He plays Druid
Yeah.
in Eternals, but he's
I
also
knew I had seen him
he's
lately.
also
Okay.
in the Yorgos Lanthimos film, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, where he's
which is
magnificent.
which
as
I
a-
have but haven't
Okay.
seen.
He's like
Well,
the
we need to see that.
like the creepiest teenager I've ever seen.
He's
and,
pretty creepy looking
pretty
and
creepy here,
pretty
too.
creepy here too.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen him in other things that I
He's-
really
he-
like.
he's
but I
very
can't
familiar,
remember.
but,
He's a that guy.
Yeah, he is still a that guy. But speaking of that guys, Ralph Ineson as obviously under a tremendous amount of CGI work as the Green Knight, but one of those voices that I wish I could build furniture out of. Yeah, him and Shorey Agdashlu. Just amazing deep baritone.
Something else I love about this movie and its design is the multiple color palettes they use.
Mm.
Yeah.
Usually in a film, unless it's really art house, usually a DP with a colorist will pick out a color palette and stick with it for the entirety of the film for consistency. But this thing had at least seven different palettes going. Sometimes they would just meld into each other. It was really gorgeous.
Some of it was lighting, though, don't you think? Like there was that one part where everything sort of went orange
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the
well, yeah,
end.
that's
Yeah.
that's lighting, but it's still color timing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, when we saw this last night, we did it on the UHD Blu-ray on my admittedly imperfectly calibrated projector, and this is an absolute torture test for your luminance.
Yeah. I was disappointed a lot with
I,
that.
I think I finally found what felt like it should have been a better setting after we saw the thing, so it ended up with a
And
lot
I
of the
couldn't
blacks
stay
as a
up.
very deep gray for most of it. But
Yeah.
the sheer torture test of this in its HDR presentation actually helped me improve the picture on my projector, I think.
Okay.
After
But
the
at
fact.
the time,
After the
everything was
fact.
either really too dark or just not enough contrast, and I was completely disappointed. So if you're looking at it, you might want to go, more standard.
I watched this in a room. I had to watch this in my bedroom instead of the living room where everything is like nice and made to be able to see the picture. In the bedroom, we have a window that is just glaring directly on the TV. And so for
Oh.
entire scenes, I was like, well, I don't know what's going on, but I can hear it.
It sounds pretty.
No, it is an absolutely gorgeous film, but contrast is kind of the word that really stuck with me. Is this goes from very deep blacks to very bright highlights, and I don't think I have ever seen another movie that made such a point of backlighting so many characters so often. Like putting people in front of brightly illuminated windows facing into dark ass rooms.
Oh, I love
And
that.
It
But I
makes
feel
some
like it should
fascinating
work
visual
so-
decisions
it
because
should
it
have
all
worked
works.
on some sort of device with the correct settings, but apparently not our
Well, no,
projector.
I tweet. Well, I mean, the thing is, it's an HDR projector, but even so, the luminance range just wasn't up to really pulling this stuff out. Although I think I fixed it afterwards. But this is my own problem.
This is not the film's problem.
This is not the
Yeah.
film's problem. This
I
is
still want to try it on the television upstairs later.
That's fair.
Did I don't let's let's get into spoiler territory a little bit with a little bit of the ending or the last half hour of the film. Um, did anybody else kind of get vibes of Last Temptation of Christ out of this?
Yes.
I never saw
Yes.
that.
Okay.
So
Hadn't thought of that before, but yeah.
Did you pick up on, so Nate, this was your first time, did you pick up on the fact that it was sort of, I wouldn't say dream sequence, but like a vision, or did you think that was the actual ending?
Well, I was confused because I mean I've read the original poem and
Okay.
everything, and so it's been a long ass time, but I remember generally what happens in it, and everything that was going on in the vision did not happen. So I was like,
Right.
are they changing everything, or is something else going on here? And
well,
of
it
course,
felt like a
something
vision,
else is
but
going
what
on.
was the actual ending? Because I've never read it,
So-
and I feel like that's go ahead.
I was going to say something about the ending of the movie, but Nate, if you recall the ending of the poem, because I don't, I think he just goes back home, and everyone's like, "Hey, good job."
Yeah, that's
Good
it.
job. You're a
passed.
knight now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Apparently
he was already a knight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he wasn't as much of a. I almost say weasel. He wasn't as much of a weasel in the poem. He was a little bit more established as a knight. But apparently, the movie there was a more definitive ending. It didn't just end on off with your head. There was more, and then Lowry decided to cut it and make it more ambiguous. And
See,
I don't know which way he went with that. So
I didn't see it as ambiguous as
I didn't either, actually.
I thought it was pretty clear that he was like, "No, you did a good job. Get out of here." Like
Yeah.
the little him running his finger across his throat was his symbolism of
That was the blow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I actually kind of thought the blow was the last vision. The vision itself to force him to see what he is. Is he a knight? Can he make the right choice after all of these other times he's failed? And he finally makes the right choice, and that's the blow.
Yeah, it was your suggestion last night, Jane, was, the rest of his life is a long time to live without honor.
Yeah, it was.
Mhm.
He. Oh, I mean, I can't believe he got Ethel, pregnant, and then just put money
Oh God,
on
yeah.
the
Yeah.
bed on the bloody sheet, and then took the baby from her.
So
I
brutal.
mean, and let his mom raise it, but and then he got to watch that child die. I mean, gosh, that was just awful.
And
Mm.
then watching everybody leave as their castle's about to be stormed, they're just like,
As
"All
was
right, you're on your own, buddy."
worth
Mm.
noting, the music, the editing, the visuals are unbelievably beautiful
Yeah.
all the way up through that
Really
sequence.
Yeah.
dark, kind of medieval, music. And it's really good.
Great locations too. Filmed
Mhm.
in Ireland.
Mm.
And I am amazed looking over the Wikipedia on this that this apparently only cost $15 million. I don't know how that's physically possible.
That
but
fox was
Wow.
really good for a $15 million picture.
Yeah.
yeah.
How about that goose? Going after the goat.
Yeah.
I was like,
You
Go-
can
these
definitely
are
tell that there was
a-holes.
a tremendous amount of passion behind this film.
Mhm. Yeah, the opening scene was just like so terrific. It's like kind of foggy. You've got your goose nipping at a goat. Then the goat goes back and nips at the goose. And
This is on the
then
heels of the
then it
opening
goes
with the
back
absolutely
where you're
terrifying
inside.
narrator.
Yeah, and you go
Who
back
is,
inside the room where he is with Ethel, and it starts, and
And this,
I-
and this,
it
this
really set the mood and the scene. It was like, yeah,
yeah, and
The,
the score syncs up with the tapping water as you're pulling back. Anyway, sorry, just that little
yes,
detail.
Yeah.
so good. So good.
That opening dialogue was the director and his wife mixed together.
Really?
Oh,
Yep. So
neat.
It's creepy as balls.
it is,
Yeah.
isn't
A
it?
lot, like I say, a lot of this movie feels like it's going to be a horror movie, and arguably some of it qualifies.
Well, when they set his head on fire,
Yeah.
I mean, when I
which
saw
is
the
a great image. I mean, it's really great, but then it's
Yeah.
scary.
But at the
It's
same time,
scary.
think of another movie based on an arguably famous legend where the movie itself really, from moment to moment, gives you no idea how this is going to go.
yeah, when I saw the
That's
trailer,
a delicate feat to pull off, especially these days.
I thought this was a horror movie when I saw the trailer. So when I went in, I was expecting a horror movie. I didn't even know it was based on an actual Arthurian legend. I thought it was just I thought it was going to be an original story. And of course, it's Sir Gawain and all the people who show up. But
This makes me want to
still-
finally go back and watch Sword of the Valiant.
Hmm.
That was the one where from 1981, I think, where it was Sean Connery as the Green Knight.
I feel like I must have seen that.
I
because that
feel
sounds like something
confident
I
it
would
was-
have loved back then.
It was, well, by all accounts, it was not a particularly good movie. Interestingly, it was directed by a
Doesn't
fellow
matter, I
named
would've seen
Stephen
it.
Weeks, who had himself previously done a movie called that, at least in Britain, was called Ghost Story.
Oh, that's fun.
Incidentally, if you guys
Full
have not
circle.
have not seen A Ghost Story, absolutely you have to see A Ghost Story. Again, similarly amazing score by Daniel Hart. I actually got the CD soundtrack on that one. I need to see if I can hunt up this
Super
one.
slow, but amazing.
Is that the one with
Amazing
Casey
movie.
Affleck?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
I don't think he's great either, but amazing. He's amazing. I mean, he's
Yeah.
hardly in it.
Oh,
If that helps.
That does help.
It could be anybody under that sheet.
It could be anybody under that sheet.
No, but like I say, this makes me want to go out and see Lowry's other movies. I honestly didn't realize that he was the one who had done Pete's Dragon. I want to see that now.
I
did
have
see
seen
that.
Pete's Dragon.
it was fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
I don't remember loving it or hating it.
Well,
I-
even so, this definitely, this is so far from being a gun for hire picture. It's ridiculous. This is not a thing that anybody would have thought was a good idea, other than the people who really, really thought it was a good idea.
I love how he came up with the idea to do Sir Gawain. He was apparently in his backyard creating a diorama of willow figures, and it just popped into his head.
Oh,
That's kind of awesome, even if I
Aw.
don't like Willow at all.
Well, there's That one shot at the crossroads with the skeleton in the hanging cage, apparently that's supposed to be somewhat of a reference to Willow, because that's where they find Mad Mardigan.
I can
Right.
see that now.
Oh, the willow carrot. Oh, the movie Willow. I thought you were meant like out of the plant willows.
Oh,
I was like, what?
No, the movie.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I've seen it twice, barely remember.
Aren't they
it, but
rebooting
I
Willow or
liked it.
something?
They're
Yeah,
making
it's got a
TV
new
show.
series. There's a new TV series on the way in. This also made me want to go back and rewatch Excalibur.
Yes, me
which-
too.
which it
I like that.
definitely feels like
I'll
it
watch
could have
it.
been a deliberate sequel to. I noticed looking through the Wikipedia now that he mentioned Excalibur as an inspiration as well. I can
Yeah.
definitely see that because this is about as grim dark as Arthurian movies come.
Yeah.
And no, Antoine Fuqua's does not count.
What about First Night?
Shut up. Think of another movie where, other than possibly the 355, where everybody on screen obviously hated the fuck out of everybody else on screen in
Yeah.
the real world.
Oh, I'm still waiting for the day when they do a correct Lancelot in a movie, because in the stories he's described as being kind of butt ugly. He's an ugly guy, but everybody loves him anyway, and that's one of the things that's so interesting about his character is that he has a shit face, and they never do that in any of the movies. He's always this like blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair-skinned guy who everybody would fall in love with, or he's Richard Gere or some shit. And, I want to see somebody butt ugly playing Lancelot. That's all I want.
You're
I
just
still
gonna have
need-
to make the movie then.
Still need to take a look at Robert Bresson's Lancelot of the Lake. I haven't seen it, but I figure if anybody's going to give that to you, it's going to be Bresson.
That's true. That is true. Well, I
that up.
really enjoyed this film.
To the folks at home, Bresson was possibly the most cynical filmmaker whose name wasn't Luis Buñuel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I felt about it while I was watching it. I kind of really fell in love with it after the fact. It took a little bit of thinking.
I do highly recommend this as a film that definitely holds up to repeat viewing.
It's actually improved upon.
Yeah,
repeat
that
viewing.
second time through, it kind of reminded me of something that, and I think I made a reference to this before, but it works in this case as well. Something Roger Ebert said about Nosferatu the Vampire, the Werner Herzog version. That think of it like an LP record. Don't expect stuff to happen. Just sit back and take it in. And that's something that's a lot easier to do when you know what's going to happen.
I probably will give this a rewatch. Not right away because it's a pretty heavy film.
It's a heavy picture. It's been a few months for us as well, but
And that was about the right amount of space.
that was about the right amount of space. Just let it percolate into your system. Let it get into your bloodstream.
And it felt like the right length too.
Yeah, no, for a movie this slow, I don't think a second was wasted.
Yeah, this was like 15 minutes shorter than A Knight's Tale. I mean, as much as enjoyable as The Knight's Tale was, I mean, it did feel longer because it was slower, but I think I agree it was the right length. It would have been too long if it was as long as The Knight's Tale.
It's never boring, not least because even on repeat viewing, it is so acutely designed to keep you on edge and kind of off balance.
So tense. That's why it's actually a relief when you get to the end. I mean, not because it was bad. It was really, really good. But it's like, oh, I can relax a little bit now because
I can breathe again.
I can breathe again. Yeah, exactly.
It's been 2 hours and 10 minutes.
The Green Knight smiled. Everything is okay.
Well, does anybody have any final thoughts on The Green Knight?
See it twice.
We need more fantasy movies like this.
Yes.
And David Lowery needs to make more movies, full stop.
As far as Arthurian legend goes, I think this and Excalibur are my two favorites. I'm not really happy with a lot of the others, the majority of them. I really like these two though. Ivanhoe was okay. That was Tristan and Isolde.
Yes, sort of.
Yeah.
Now Tristan and Isolde was. I'm getting my wires crossed.
Yeah, I just did too.
A lot of the Arthurian movies, kind of leave me cold. But you're right. The ones that are, dark but not agonizingly dark. Excalibur and the Green Knight just frickin' nail it. But a lot of Arthurian movies are way too slight.
Mm.
Or they're done by Antoine Fuqua, who I don't know what the hell he was thinking. But okay.
Which one did he do?
King Arthur. With Clive Owen?
Oh, that one.
Which, I mean, I enjoyed as, like, sort of an action movie.
I mean, of course, Monty Python and the Holy Grail got the grime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's interesting that of the Arthurian movies, the third best at nailing the aesthetic that something like this should be is a comedy.
Wait, isn't there a Guy Ritchie one with Charlie Hunnam that just came out a couple years ago?
Yeah.
I think it was just called King Arthur. I never saw it. It looked terrible.
I'm kind of told it's the pants, but that's not a good thing.
I'll give it a whirl.
I do like a lot of Ritchie's work, even when a lot of people didn't. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was, great. I'm glad he's getting a cult following. Wrath of Man is amazing. The recent one that he did with Statham, it's unbelievably dark. But I haven't heard anybody say a single good word about King Arthur.
Yeah. Oh well. Well, we'll always have the Green Knight and Excalibur.
And Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. That will always be there. Well, I think that's going to do it for us here on What's on the Pile. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at What's on the Pile. You can visit our YouTube under the official Punch Bunny YouTube channel, or you can visit our website, what'sonthepile.com. I just got the SSL script fixed, so that website's back up now. We were having some technical issues with it, but it's all been sorted out. All right, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for hanging out.